Hi guys, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hazing. Hazing is something that's very high profile and we hear a lot about it in the media in regards to college campuses, fraternities and sororities, college sports, but it's actually almost as widespread at the high school level as it is at the college level. In fact, 48% of high school students report that they have been hazed at some point in their high school careers. So the exact definition of hazing varies and it's very broad, and even the laws from state to state have different definitions of what exactly it is. But overall, it's committing acts against an individual or forcing an individual into committing an act that creates a risk for harm in order for the individual to be initiated into or affiliated with an organization, regardless of the person's willingness to participate in said acts. So before I go more into hazing, I think it's really important that I differentiate that hazing and bullying are two totally different things. Although sometimes hazing might be misconstrued as bullying. Bullying is an attempt to exclude someone from a group or activity, while hazing is more about earning entry into a specific group. So there's different types of hazing that most events usually would fall under. So some main categories are humiliation, which can be socially offensive, isolating, or uncooperative behaviors. There's also substance abuse, so the abuse of alcohol, tobacco, or illegal drugs. And then there's also dangerous hazing, which is hurtful, aggressive, destructive, or disruptive behaviors. And all of these different categories can be physical or emotional. So, physical hazing would be, for example, an upperclassman beating up an underclassman, and emotional is more verbal or trying to emotionally hurt someone. So, hazing happens in the greatest number of instances with athletic teams, and most recently this was publicized in the media. I'm pretty sure we all heard about Sayreville High School and their football team, but actually it's also predominant in other groups, including peer groups, gangs especially, music, art, theater. It can really pretty much be present in any organization. But there are some differences in hazing that occur between boys and girls. So both male and female students report high levels of hazing, but males are at a higher risk, especially for dangerous hazing. And males are also more likely to not report instances of hazing. So boys are more likely to be hazed using humiliation and violence. They're more likely to have an action done to them by older members, such as physical violence, getting beaten up, etc. While girls are more likely to be forced to perform embarrassing things, such as wearing ridiculous outfits or eating unusual things. So why is this important? Well, there's many consequences to hazing. For example, for those being hazed, in extreme cases, death can occur. Um, but in most cases, the negative implications usually involve just getting into fights, getting injured, fighting with their parents, performing poorly on schoolwork, missing school or practice, hurting someone else, or having difficulty concentrating. And there's also implications for those doing the hazing. There's discrepancies in hazing laws, so the punishments vary from state to state. But the consequences can range from warnings, school suspension, school expulsion, legal fines, and even jail time, depending on the severity of the case and the specific laws in the state that the case occurred. This leads me into legal concerns. There also are a lot of legal concerns surrounding hazing because it's underemphasized in the law. Federally, the law completely ignores hazing, while locally it's only addressed in 43 states. Of the 43 states with hazing laws, each varies largely in terms of defining hazing, as I said before, the penalties imposed, and enforcement. Of the 43 states that have hazing laws, only 27 states have laws regarding hazing that specifically apply to high school. And only 6 states outline a criminal duty to report hazing incidents, and even worse, only 3 states impose a duty to implement preventative hazing measures. As future school personnel, this is important to us because even though there aren't laws surrounding it, in most states, school personnel can face legal ramifications regarding hazing. And these most often happen in the form of civil lawsuits, generally based on lack of adequate and proper supervision. As far as the law in New Jersey specifically goes, hazing is not specifically defined or addressed in the Anti Bullying Bill of Rights, but it does fall under the state law Title 2C 40 3, which is hazing and aggravated hazing. And the law defines it as a person is guilty of hazing, a disorderly person's offense, if, in connection with initiation of applicants to or members of a student or fraternal organization, he knowingly or recklessly organizes, promotes, facilitates, or engages in any conduct other than competitive athletic events which places or may place another person in danger of bodily injury. And a person guilty of aggravated hazing, a crime of the fourth degree, is guilty if he commits an act prohibited in subsection A, which results in serious bodily injury to another person. I've attached a link to this presentation, and it is a website that talks all about hazing prevention, and there's actually an interactive map of all the states, and it specifically outlines which states don't have any hazing laws whatsoever, and you can click on every state and it will tell you the exact hazing law, so that might be something good to look at if you guys want to check that out. Also, why does hazing happen? It's something that's been around, but we hear about it only when it's really bad or in specific instances, most likely at the college level. But it actually does start as early as 6th grade, and most students who participate in various forms of hazing did so because it was fun and exciting and it made them feel closer as a group. But there's this myth surrounding hazing that it's a legitimate rite of passage, and that's why it's kind of prevailed over time. But there is a thin line that's very hard to define between bonding activities or rites of passage, incidences of hazing. So it's hard for students, especially younger ones, to know when they've crossed it. So this leads me to my last point, which while I was doing my research, I came across a really interesting article, and although it's not specifically related to high school, the author of the article was a member of a fraternal organization, and she's a writer for Cosmopolitan, and it offers a different perspective because, believe it or not everybody who's been hazed thinks it's a bad thing. Some people believe it brought them closer as a group, or even refer to it as the most fun you'll never want to have again. I know my presentation focuses on the high school level, but there are a lot of student affairs people in the class as well. So I think if you guys want to, I've attached the link to the article, so if you guys want to check that out, it just offers a different perspective and gives you something else to think about, although obviously hazing isn't a good thing and it needs to be reported. There are reasons that it's not being reported, and this kind of gives you some insight into why that might not happen. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys in class.